Welcome to the Big Fat Gay Podcast, where we talk about the things that are weighing on our minds. I'm Dan Oliverio. I'm a chubby chaser, an author, public speaker, and I'm speaking to you from an undisclosed location in COVID outside a very pretty tree.
Undisclosed. Trevor, what happened to him?
Shh, don't tell him.
I'm Trevor Keyson. I'm a super chub, and we're not in an undisclosed location. We're in our regularly disclosed location.
I am Michael. I'm a chaser, and I had almost forgotten how to do this. It's been a month, and my memory goes quickly. But my location is right next to Maggie, who is sleeping in the windowsill and looking super peaceful. So,
my name is Don. I'm a big chubby guy living in Hollywood, and I am remembering trees fondly.
Oh boy.
Those are the ones with wings, right?
Yeah.
All different colors. They fly around.
So welcome back to the Big Fat Gay Podcast.
Yay.
We've been away for a little while.
Season 2.
Not really.
Take us away.
We still gave you stuff.
What more do you want from us? We give you everything
and we
can.
give. I love it because the whole idea was like, oh, we're going to go on a little hiatus, and we can at least each take a break for 3 of the 4 weeks. But then it was never really addressed that I would still be working every week on the new mini episodes.
Michael doesn't count as someone who gets a break.
So I need to know, as somebody who did not get time off, what did you guys do with your free time?
I got nothing.
Nothing? Okay.
It's the
Good job.
same.
Good job.
I went
Summer
to
well
Cabo.
spent, everybody.
I went swimming with lots of people. I hugged people. That was nice.
Spitting in their
And
mouth.
then you woke up.
Yes. Shared
traditional
meals at the
greeting.
same table. I
Smell the
shook
food.
hands with someone.
Oh my God, you insane person.
I lost my antibacterial soap and didn't panic.
I've been watching a lot of Mad Men, which I forgot. It's just such a well-crafted show.
Mm-hmm.
I think I've started rewatching Blacklist. Is that too pathetic to mention? I mean,
Well, that actually dovetails with what I was about to say. Like, I feel like I have finished all the good TV, and now I am descending into the bad TV.
no, don't do it, Don.
I watched Holy Moly. That is a
what is
miniature golf reality comedy show.
Yeah.
Oh, dear.
I watched
boy.
it. I've watched every episode.
Ouch.
Oh boy.
God damn it.
No, see, Don, what you got to do is rewatch the good stuff, because I mean, if you're like me and you have no short-term memory, then that works out fine.
Yeah, I'm just like that.
Every time is the first time.
Well, I have been hard at work. I've been lucky enough to have plenty of work to do, and all of that is working for the chorus. And I actually wanted to talk about one of the. So we produce videos pretty regularly, and I've been trying to sort of continue to push forward the Black Lives Matter conversation and continuing to help people and engage with people. And one of the videos we released was called The Power of Protesting, where we talked to a lot of chorus members about the various different ways that they engage with the movement. It's a really solid video. I'm quite proud of it. We'll share a link to it. But the main thing I wanted to kind of accomplish with it, besides having a really great resource for people and relatable stories, was like, it's been 2 months since the George Floyd protests and riots. And I feel like people are starting to, maybe not as much as previous times, but still starting to fall back into the old normal. And I think it's important to like continue to remind and impress the importance of keeping the conversation going. So that was mostly of what I was up to.
Well,
over the break.
while the Black Lives Matter stuff you've been doing with BGMC has been very good, you've actually been working with the Gay Men's Chorus of Boston for a really long time. So, like, if people want to see your stuff, there's a good body of work on YouTube right now. If they go Google or look for, BGMC?
Yeah, Boston Gay Men's Chorus on YouTube. And we have a BGMC online, which is sort of what we have turned the chorus into during quarantine. So, like, obviously they can't perform. So the pivot that we've been making is producing video to continue to implement social change by using music to change hearts and minds. So that's what I've been focusing on. We have hundreds of videos on our YouTube channel as well as on the website. So that has been kind of my life for the past, well, pretty much since May, but certainly in the last month, 2 months, it's been quite busy that way. So,
Yay.
Well, it's a good cause and you're doing good work.
thank you.
So one thing I did watch over July, and I emailed all of you about because I just freaked the fuck out when I saw this woman on this movie, was the Netflix original movie EuroVision. And it was cute. I mean, it's a cute movie, but there was a segment in there where they just had all these old EuroVision winners in this sort of big mashup number. And the last one they introduced, sort of like the big final entrance for it, is this singer Netta, which I'd never heard of before.
I hadn't either.
I had heard of Netta, but she kind of, once again, time is a flat circle. I can't even think about like a year ago, 2 years ago. I remember kind of when she blew up in EuroVision. And, I always see EuroVision stuff. I mainly saw this because she's fat.
Just that little piece of her on EuroVision completely just caught my attention. And then it turned out, after I posted a few things about her on Facebook, it turned out I wasn't the only one. Like a bunch of my friends turned out to have watched the EuroVision movie, because what else are you going to do right now? And completely fixated on her. So I did like a deep dive into her for a couple days, just became an utter fanatic. And I feel like I'm looking at her right now the way you normally look at Lizzo. There's something about her, like her sensibilities just click with me. I like her.
The one of her more recent videos, the is it
Ricky
called
Lake?
Ricky Lake?
It's called Ricky Lake.
This it's everything
It's awesome.
I want that I didn't know I wanted.
Yes.
No, she's really phenomenal. She's just so quirky, and her voice is so unique. Not just the sound of her voice, but like what she has to say is so interesting.
I accidentally paused her video for Ricky Lake on, there's this one shot of a sort of a tower of pastries and then just a woman's butt lowering down onto it.
I don't know. The donut bathtub sequence is pretty
The
pretty
donut
arresting as well.
bathtub sequence is
I love
amazing.
it. I love that.
Just jars of mayonnaise that are Ricky Lake mayonnaise.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Everything.
I mean, so basically it's a video. I would say watching the video, it's sort of a message about how food is being like forced on people all the time, but the mixed message of body image being shoved on you at all times, and a revolt against it, while also sort of an admission of the how crappy it can make you feel. But I feel like there's enough weird imagery in there where you can watch it and find whatever freaking meaning you want.
It's so true. Yeah, like I don't think there's a message. I just think there's a whirlwind, and boy,
yeah,
I don't
just
know.
be entertained.
But there are 3 videos of hers online that I just want to point people towards: Toy, Cuckoo, and Ricky Lake. I think all 3 of them are phenomenal. And she has some other stuff, but even more interesting, she is hosting a COVID quarantine talk show from her bedroom, where you can actually watch her like read viewer mail and then go like, oh, that's a really interesting phrase, and then start making a song out of it.
That blew me away, to see her just look at a piece of text from somebody, and she would read it and she's like, oh, that's kind of an interesting phrase there, and make that into a friggin' song right on the spot with her. I don't know what the machine she's using is, but it's amazing.
It's a synthesizer. I think it's a device that you can use to like loop sounds, like record
It's
sounds
a looper,
live,
because there's no keyboard. It's just all her.
Yeah.
And then laying down tracks and loops, and and she's so masterful at it. And I was blown away. The composition is really great.
Yeah.
You can also find the stuff she performed to win EuroVision on YouTube, and it's amazing stuff. So check her out. It just as a new flavor for your musical.
Did she win EuroVision? I mean,
she won EuroVision. She was the
moly.
2018 winner.
Holy moly.
I don't think we've actually stated this up to this point. Not that it matters, because she's a brilliantly talented artist, but the tie-in to this show is that she is a fat performer. That's the.
Oh yeah, by the way,
like in case you don't know who she is, like this is
she's big and smart and beautiful,
and she's awesome.
Yeah.
She's the Israeli Lizzo, and she's just fantastic. She's incredibly charismatic too. I mean, obviously, to be that talented of a performer,
I want her to
need
team up
some.
with Lizzo.
That would be
yes.
fucking fantastic. The world would bloom back into life if that happened.
So speaking of foreign music videos, I'm sorry.
Yes, and people that we would love to see collab with Lizzo.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
So I shared this, God, was it, I don't know, last week or 2 weeks ago when I saw it via Twitter on the Big Fat Gay podcast Twitter account, I guess. Japanese comedian Naomi Watanabe, who first came on to
Watanabe,
my radar with she was cast in like a Japanese production of Hairspray.
But the woman you're talking about is Naomi Watanabe.
Yes.
Yeah.
Who did a parody of Rain on Me by Lady Gaga and Ariana Grande with Urian Retriever, who's another comedian. And it is, once again, just this amazing, it's not even I wouldn't say it's a parody.
That's my balking point. It is not a parody. It is
a recreation.
Yes,
it's a recreation. It is. I mean, there are elements of it that are kind of humorous, but for the most part, it is just a straight up recreation shot for shot.
I didn't see anything humorous about it. I thought it was just good.
Well, I think the skewers and
the meat skewers. I would say that's the only thing that I really
the video is the Lady Gaga video. Just so you know, is like it's called "Rain on Me," and it's mostly a dance video.
Right.
But
that said, if you use meat imagery in a Lady Gaga parody, it's appropriate. The meat dress for her is iconic. So, like, I just see it as a Gaga reference.
Yeah. Anyway, it's fantastic. Like I said, I shared it on Twitter. I'll share it again on our other platforms.
So we have mentioned Lizzo a couple times this episode already.
Once or twice.
Yeah.
I'm curious, Trevor.
Speaking of Lizzo, but
Lizzo Watch
it's
2020.
Lizzo Watch 2020. Hey, it's still 2020. Imagine that.
Still. What's she up to these days?
So, like everyone but Michael, Lizzo was on a little quarantine vacation, which she actually seemed to get kicked out of her initial rental.
She went away on vacation.
Yes, it's to an undisclosed location. So
like me.
Oh, like Dan.
Yeah, we can see her behind
Look
the
around
tree.
you, Dan. You might see someone you recognize.
Wait, is Lizzo there with you?
But she posted about getting kicked out of this rental early, and the owner of the property seemed to, he kicked them out, and he said his reason was he was afraid that she and her, little quarantine pod of girlfriends were going to hurt him. And he showed videos of them dancing. Basically, is like, you're going to hurt me, and I'm afraid, so I'm going to call the police.
What? Like physically harm him, like attack him?
Was he living in the space?
I don't know. It seemed to be. I'm going to say he's racist.
Yeah.
But she posted a video kind of clapping back and twerking, sharing the story to a lovely, I'm guessing maybe somewhere Palm Springsy, because it was her twerking. We zoomed out and we kind of see the desert behind her, and it's a beautiful image. Twerking in the sunset in the Old West.
So you get to see the moon going down.
Yes.
And then up again.
Lizzo also kind of cleaned up, as she always should and does, at the BET 2020 Awards, nominated for Album of the Year, Best Female Artist, the BET Her Award, Female R&B Pop Artist, which she won. I'm imagining that she has a throne of awards, kind of like the sword throne in Game of Thrones. That I haven't seen Game of Thrones. We might actually give in maybe in fall quarantine and watch that. Lizzo once again treated some frontline workers in Las Vegas to lunch from Capriati's, which I've actually had. I think it's at least a smallish chain. I have had a very delicious sandwich from there, so Lizzo knows her sandwiches. Not only is she taking care of the frontline workers, so rapper Megan Thee Stallion, I know Lizzo is a friend of hers. They've collabed on some stuff, but she was shot several times and is recovering.
Oh my!
And Megan Thee Stallion shared a video of it was a giant stuffed dog that Lizzo sent her, but then it unzips and it was full of all these little, like, her favorite candies and stuff. Which is a very nice thing to do. If your friend gets shot, Michael, if you got shot, I would send you something equally lovely.
So we do have an actual main subject today.
You had our tasty treats for this episode. Now let's get into the shit show.
Yes.
Yes, because there's always a shit show in the world of...
Well, our shit show is that we're still, in lockdown because people can't get their shit together.
Mm-hmm.
But the world is
pond.
healing, and other countries have begun to return to
people who actually
normal.
did do the mask thing are going back to normal bit by bit now.
So Michael shared a story while we were in our little group text while we were away.
A listener actually sent this in. It's a CNN article talking about a new policy in Venice's tourism world, specifically about the gondolas that they use to taxi people around, which are treated very much like taxis are in like New York City. And they reduced the maximum number of people allowed on a gondola from 6 to 5. And the reason they cited was because tourists are too fucking fat, not in their own words, although their own words were not much nicer than that.
Yeah, I believe the article says it's like dropping bombs.
Yes. Going forward with over half a ton of meat on board is dangerous. I don't know if there was some translation issues from Italian to English there, or if he just said that. But yes, they used the word meat to refer to people.
Well, yeah. The word in Italian would be carne, but it's meant to be flesh, meat. It's sort of it's a more general word than we would have in English.
I suppose it still feels degrading.
Well, yeah, but I gotta say, I don't have a problem with this because everybody wins. I mean, if I told you that we're going to take out, because again, if you reduce it from 6 to 5, we're going to take out 20% of the airline seats and make them bigger so that we have more room on a plane, everybody would win.
Sure. Well, but yes, I don't disagree with the policy, but the way that they put it into the world was like spiteful. It was like the way that these are direct quotes from the people who made these decisions. Like, they could have easily said, hey, to accommodate our, to be best at helping our tourists get around the city, we're going to, reduce the blah, 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 so it's more comfortable or whatever. It could have been any number of different ways of communicating that.
Yeah, but I mean, the bottom line is it's because of the weight, and the weights have gone up, and so they're reducing the number of people. Is it insulting to talk about, carne? Sure, maybe.
Well, it's like dropping bombs when people get onto the boat. Like these are... Again, when you make a public statement like that, people listen to it. And I think that's part of the toxicity around that doesn't need to exist. It just doesn't need to be around.
I'm willing to bet that the dropping bombs reference, that probably lost a little something in translation, because I could understand the reference of there was a dock I used to go to and get into paddle boats from. And there was no way to get down into the boat gracefully.
Right, exactly.
So there was a little bit of a drop and there was a little bit of a thud when I hit the bottom. So if they are just saying that and the translation is leading it into something that's making it sound like I am belly flopping into your boat attempting to destroy it with my gigantic butt, I mean, that's what it sounds like when you say you're dropping bombs. But if that was a mistranslation, great.
What I find interesting is, so they emphasize that it's not because of COVID, it's because people are too fat. But I have been just kind of, anytime I see something now, I reassess is this going to continue after COVID? Because there is so much emphasis on just packing people in everywhere.
Exactly.
And I'm curious to see how this changes. I still feel like anytime I do something touristy kind of like that, like the gondola thing, I am always just kind of aware, not just because of my size, but just how much they're just cramming people in like cattle into anything. And there's so many things I want to do, but I don't want to be packed in. Mm-hmm. So, and now I'm even more like, oh my God, I can't believe we've been packing people into these spaces this way.
I think Michael's point is well taken. It was to say the least indelicately put, but I think it's a good policy because it's going to help everybody.
Yeah, I don't disagree with the actual decision. I think it's nothing but helpful because it makes everyone more comfortable on both sides of the issue, like the people and gondolas safe. And so that I don't have a problem with that. I just think that when you make public statements, you have to be careful about what you say because people listen to it. Yeah. And if you're contributing to toxic communication, it's not helping anyone. It's just making it worse.
Very true.
And if you have the opportunity to say, for the health and safety of our gondoliers and riders,
I know.
why Why would you not make it seem like a nice thing instead of just being like?
Speaking as someone who's half Italian, it's because no, that's not how they talk. That's just not. That's such an American thing to say.
In these troubling times.
In these troubling times.
In these
yeah, it's just
difficult
such an
times.
American way to put it. You're talking to a Venetian water taxi driver. That's how it is. That's how it occurs for him. That's how he's going to say it. Is it indelicate? Yes. Is it nasty? Maybe. But yeah, I think you're not talking to the public relations spokesman for the Gondoliers Union.
There was the guy who made the bombs comment was the president of the Association of Substitute Gondoliers, a group representing less experienced gondoliers. So you may not actually want to use his services anyway, because
Are you
it might be
serious?
a bumpy ride. That's the guy who made the bombs comment.
Okay.
And then,
okay.
Wow.
Well, there you have
That's
it.
amazing.
There you have it, folks. That's the explanation.
Oh my
Moving on.
God, I love that.
Podcast
Yeah.
complete.
Problem solved. No, maybe avoid his particular. The president of Venice's Gondola Association, Andrea Balbi, said over the last 10 years or so, tourists weigh more, and rather than having them step on a scale before they get on, we're limiting the number. That's a little more
That's lovely. Yeah.
elegantly put. So, yeah. But this is in CNN, and both quotes are, it's like, it's all there.
Yeah. One has a lot more clicks than the other. Yeah.
So that was one thing, but the Prime Minister of the UK, who got COVID and recovered, has basically decided to crack down on obesity by implementing a bunch of new policies, limiting advertising and basically sales of what they qualify as junk foods, and also by putting like calorie counts on menus because of his own struggles with obesity. That's where he's coming from. But it's all based around like we've talked about this before on the show, like BMI and who's obese versus overweight versus morbidly obese and all that. But this is a new sort of thrust that came out of his, and this is in the New York Times, at least what we're referencing, and they have all of these links to like linked obesity to a greater risk of serious illness or death from COVID-19, and like I feel like these are things that we have debunked, but like we've like, is this still a thing now?
Yeah. It's the same prejudice that always goes around. And I think Trevor has an idea I think maybe we'll cover it in a future podcast of like doing a deep dive into why COVID is not the big scare for fat people that it seems to be. But what's interesting to me in this whole thing is that Boris Johnson, the Prime Minister, there is a long history in the UK and in England for persecuting fat people for being the cause of everything bad in the healthcare system. And I used to think that, if you have socialized medicine and the government is responsible for healthcare, then the government is going to take a stand on obesity because they think they're linked. But if you look at other European countries, and other European countries have government healthcare systems, they're not nearly as draconian as the UK system, which seems to just have it in for fat people. It's remarkable the way they go after fat people in that particular region.
He's calls himself way overweight, and to him, way overweight is standing 5'10" and 245 pounds. Which, I mean, maybe I have a skewed perspective here, but it's like, really? That's where you're like, oh, come on.
Well, actually, technically, again, if you go by their silly BMI scale, that is way overweight.
Yeah.
It's called obese. And it's
Yeah.
way beyond that even. So, but yeah, it's all based on that sort of nonsense.
The thing that I'm seeing already with this affecting me directly is I'm seeing a lot of people reposting it and sharing it on social medias in the US as ways to basically, I texted Michael the other night at like 1 a.m. Just
Oh,
like, Dan,
boy.
Michael, what's Dan's term for like, oh no, I'm just concerned about you're healthy, not
Concern
not
trolling.
Concern
Yeah.
trolling.
Yeah.
I'm seeing a lot of concern trolling popping up all over, including I had a Facebook exchange with a friend of mine who is a genuinely good guy. I have no issues with this man, but he is a professional fitness model and actor. And he started this ball rolling on his page of the whole, like, it's time we have a serious conversation about people getting healthy in this country. Why
Jesus
don't we pay
Christ.
attention to this? And then immediately, because he's in that fitness community, just post after post after person, like sing it out, call it out. We let people get away with way too much. My God, blah, blah, blah. Why we need to help them see the light. And when I came back to him on his website, and basically I could not figure, I was so angry when I read this that there was no way I could post a response without foaming at the mouth. So what I ended up doing was turning around and he cited something in his post about, I am tired of being told I'm wrong for living my life the way I live it. I'm sick of fit shaming.
And fuck yourself.
Continued on about how he is a persecuted minority. Right.
Yeah. Oh my.
And this should sound really familiar to a lot of people right now named Karen.
Right. And so I went back to him on that. And the response I posted was like, I would like to know more about this fit shaming thing. It's a new concept to me. Please explain it to me.
Oh, good.
And I would love an example. And the first response he sends me is clearly evasive. Like he did not want to talk about this with me. Mm-hmm. His first response was, well, it's just like fat shaming. It's exactly the same. Right. And I was like,
oh, just like it.
I'm having a hard time understanding. Could you just give me one example? And so the example he gave me was a valid example of the way his body has been used against him. I will not call it out as saying it was shallow or tepid. He's a professional fitness person. He is an actor. He was on a major motion picture series as a recurring character and was fired because one of the lead actors felt uncomfortable standing next to someone who looked so good in the costume.
Yeah.
Right. And that's valid, but that is one very small event. Like my immediate counter is like, well, guess what? I'm expected to get turned down for most jobs and make probably 30% less than you the rest of my life because of the way I look. But no, you losing one job, that makes sense. No, I get you.
Yeah.
And belittling his example would not have been a good thing. Right.
No. And it actually brings up the greater question. We're dealing with, how do you address the perception where people with privilege feel persecuted for their privilege?
Yeah.
And it's not, we're talking here in the context of fat or body size or whatever, whatever you want to call fitness. I don't like that term, but whatever. Look, I'm going to call it looking privileged. It's sort of body privilege. The fitness, because, it's not fitness and it's not health. I want to really stress that, because having abs is no sign of health. It is a sign of having low abdominal body fat. Mm-hmm. And it has nothing to do with exercise. It has nothing to do with diet, and it has nothing to do with health, unless it happens to. It's not a one-to-one.
They're not mutually inclusive.
Yeah, it's someone who has abs is not necessarily any more metabolically fit than someone who doesn't have abs. It just doesn't. That's just not true medically. But we see this with talking about people who have white privilege or who have other kinds of privilege, where they're persecuted, and it's a very hard conversation to have, because it's hard to talk them out of that. Mm-hmm. And so I applaud you, Don, for listening to it.
So something that's come from this UK thing that's kind of on the same track as what Don's talking about, but in a parallel, is so they're talking about the UK's has all these policies, and many of them are targeting junk foods and fast food, and restricting advertisements, restricting buy one get one free deals. And there were people that were saying the demonization of all of these foods will not solve the issue of obesity or health problems.
Sure, and it's just predicated on the idea that obese people are compelled to eat lots and lots of junk food, and if you limit the junk food, then you limit the obese people. That's
it's simplistic,
just
it's reductive,
falsified.
It's
it's one of those things where I don't think it's even, the issue isn't even confined by a party or political thought. I mean, we live in a country where our president lied about his weight because he was embarrassed about it, but then everyone I agree with politically started going after him for being fatty 2x4. And it's like, this is not conducive to the conversation. The thing that our idiot president is suffering from is a body a body discomfort that many of us in this country have. If we were maybe a little more understanding with him, maybe more people could talk about it.
Well, there's still the idea that fat shaming is very wrong unless you really hate the person. Then it's okay. What I wanted to say about the education side of it, because people are like, what do you mean education? The English chef Jamie Oliver did an interesting. He had a TV show back a while ago, and he went to a kindergarten in England, and he walked in with a tomato, and he said to and this is a very low income group of kindergartners, and he went to the kindergarten. He said, "Do you know what this is?" And they looked at him, and they just all shook their heads. Nobody knew what it was, and he said, "This is a tomato." And they went, "Oh," like one or two kids had heard of a tomato, but that's nice. But it was an abstract concept to them. Like, yeah, we've heard of tomatoes, but we've also heard of kiwi fruit, and we don't have that either. And then he said, "This is what ketchup comes from." And the whole room went, "Oh, okay, now we know what it is." And so when I think of food education, that's what I'm talking about. And it doesn't have to be tomatoes, but where you have some connection to the food of the land, and that it's not all been packaged and processed and removed of any flavor, and then had McDonald's or somebody put their flavor back into it because the flavor is now the product.
So it's interesting you bring up Jamie Oliver. There was something I read that I forgot about. So this was a conversation of people in the UK kind of debating the issue of restricting junk food and advertisements and everything. So there was someone that said I was at one of the schools that Jamie Oliver came to and redid our, the meal plan at the school. And it was, lower income school. And they said, they were trying to get us to eat healthy. They add all these, salads and healthier entrees, but the low income students can't afford them. So that they're like, they have all these healthy options for us, but we can afford them. So we ended up going to Tesco, which is, like UK 7-Eleven. And getting, crisps and cookies and junk because that's all we could afford.
And there was something similar that happened. He did the same show in the United States like a year later. He did the same thing with a tomato, but with a potato. This is where French fries come from, and the kids freaked out. And they redid the school lunch program here. It was paid for by the state. He actually showed it could be done cheaper than using the mass-produced stuff and the frozen, salted, processed foods. But despite that, a year after, when they did the follow-up, the school had gone back to using all the frozen processed foods. And their excuse was, well, kids liked the chocolate milk better than they liked the regular
I will
milk.
say one of the problems, because schools have tried this, where, let's give the kids an apple. All the apples end up in the trash can. We give the kids a choice between white milk and chocolate milk. The white milk never gets picked up. If you give it to them, it just goes in the trash.
See, the way I was raised was like, you know what? Oh, that's fine. If you're not hungry, just don't take it, and you'll eat the next meal.
Well, don't get me started on children's menus. I think that was the death of cuisine in this country.
To this day, I'm shocked how many parents make a separate meal for their kids.
And as I say, a children's menu. How ridiculous that children can't eat the same food as other people.
Well, I could see a children's menu at a restaurant in that it's cheaper, smaller portions.
For portion sizes. Yeah. But what the children's menu ends up being is French fries and chicken fingers.
Yeah, always.
Yeah. Plain hamburger, grilled cheese, chicken fingers, pizza,
buttered
pasta. You mean a
pasta.
fast food menu? Yes. The children's menu is the fast food menu of the restaurant. Yeah.
Anyway.
Yes, but
that's what's on our mind.
that's what's going on in Euro Disney land. That's a little bit of the whole world is
fat phobia over the pond and how it affects us. There you go. Trevor, do you have a tip this week?
I do. So I've talked about NAFA, the National Association for the Advancement of Fat Acceptance, has a new website, which I think I mentioned one of the times I've mentioned it before. I think I was like, oh, there's a website, and they're going to be redoing it. It was, the same website that they had in 1994. Now it is brand new. It is lovely. It was put together by one, let's say 72-year-old woman on her own with the help of Squarespace tech support.
Oh.
It is phenomenal. It is user friendly now. Check it out.
And
my favorite feature is on the page where there are the newsletters. There are old newsletters from 1969, 1973 that are in lovely, readable, searchable form.
You can search for keywords. You can search for stuff you're looking for if you're trying to do research, if you're in fat studies or looking to do stuff like that. Well, and the thing I really appreciate too is, you might think, well, why would I want to look at old newsletters, especially newsletters from the 80s, the 70s, because NAFA started in 1969. The reason is because sometimes you're new to the whole fatosphere and the political side of fat. And you think oh, we're just starting to take up these issues. It's like, no, these issues have been going on for a long time. And what does that look like in 1970? What does that look like in 1980? What was being talked about? And it's a lot like the civil rights movement, where you see wow, this is the same conversation we were having. We're having it a little bit differently because we're a different society now. But it's really interesting to see how this particular organization, how they did publicity, how they did activism, because you're like, oh, we couldn't, we're not going to do it that way, but we could do it this way, informed by that.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting. So I brought a bit.
Oh, wonderful.
Yay.
Shall we?
Yay.
I figured since we'd be talking so much about music and Lizzo and Netta today, that I would do a deep dive into some trivia about some of our favorite larger than life singers.
I'm going to suck at this.
Yeah.
I got to say,
too.
I do not follow music, so this was one of the hardest research ones I've done so far.
Trevor, it's all on you.
I've got a couple here I think are interesting. So let's see. Which of the following singers do not know how to read music? 1, the Notorious B.I.G. 2, Meatloaf. 3, Queen Latifah. Or 4, Netta.
I'm going to say Meatloaf. I don't know why, but that seems like...
Okay, Michael pulling out the Meatloaf.
Mm-hmm.
I have no idea. I'm very proud of myself that I know who all these people are. I think that's my victory for today.
Good job.
Good job.
I'm going to say Netta because she is more kind of pop with, it's kind of electronica. And you mentioned she used the looper.
Mm-hmm.
So I can see her being, she seems very listening auditory based. So I can see that maybe she wouldn't know how to read music.
So Michael's with Meatloaf and Trevor's with Netta. And the correct answer is Meatloaf.
Wow.
He has never learned how to read
I feel like
music.
I heard that.
He would do anything for love.
But he won't learn how to read music.
Yes. That's what the song's about.
Okay. Question 2. Who claims that their time working with Prince made them the artists they are today? 1, Meatloaf. 2, Lizzo. 3, Adele. Or 4, CeeLo Green.
Huh.
I'm going to go with CeeLo Green because I have no idea who that is.
I'm willing to bet you actually know some of his music.
That's
even if
possible.
You would know him if you saw him.
Maybe heard the music.
I think CeeLo also, just because I'm looking at the time frame, but
All right.
I
We got 2 for
don't know.
CeeLo.
I'm going to say CeeLo as well because the timing, the styles.
Yeah. Okay. So
Yeah.
we have 3 for CeeLo.
Yep.
The correct answer, according to my research, which now I'm getting nervous about, is in fact Lizzo.
What?
Lizzo collaborated with Prince for his 2014 album Plectrum Electrum for the song Boy Trouble. And she said she called working with Prince a surreal experience and it was like a fairy tale.
Prince is dead, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
When did he die?
I want to say 2016 with everyone
Okay.
else. That was awesome.
Yeah. April 2016.
Third question. Whose biggest hit was recorded at 4 a.m. after a binge in a bar? Lizzo, Barry White, Mama Cass, or also known as Israel Kamakawi Ole. Because I could never pronounce that name. I'm Native Hawaiian. I'm very embarrassed by it.
Kamakavika Ole. Yep.
Well done.
I'm going to say Mama Cass. I don't know if she was a drinker or not, but I like her and I just want to say her name. So there you go.
Fair enough.
I'm going to say Lizzo just because Michael said Mama Cass, so we can have
Cover
some
all
variety.
the bases. I gotcha.
I have an idea it's Mama Cass too, but for no good reason. So yeah, Michael must be right.
So you're going Mama Cass?
You're taking your life in your hands with that
All right.
one.
We got 2 for Mama Cass. We got 1 for Lizzo. And the correct answer is Israel Kamakawi Ole.
Really?
Yeah, him too.
Yes. There's actually a great story online told from the perspective of the sound engineer who recorded him that night. He was packing up to go home at like 2:30 in the morning. Someone who came in to record all the time asked him if he'd be willing to stay for one quick recording. And apparently this guy bring in young women all the time to say like, oh yeah, we're going to record a track that he'd sleep with and then he'd never see them again. But then this 6'4", 500-pound guy shows up at the studio. He's terrified of him, has to go find a chair that can support him, sits down, and the way he described the experience was afterwards was like, this is why I got into music. This moment was the reason why I got into music, in that it was, again, one of those tracks that was performed once at 4 o'clock in the morning and done perfectly, and now echoes through all of our music for all time. I love that song.
Do you know the track or the piece or the
that was
What a Wonderful
somewhere.
World?
Oh, it was
it was that piece.
You mean Somewhere Over the Rainbow or
Somewhere Over the Rainbow? What a Wonderful World. It's a mashup of the two.
Okay.
And apparently, like, because it was so early in the morning and they were both tired, when you listen to that song, you can hear him breathing very heavily. And that's because 4 a.m. didn't know what it was going to be, and magic. Yeah. Okay, last question. Which of the following singers wasn't allowed to join a band because one of the artists already in it said they were too fat? A, Big Pun, B, Aretha Franklin, C, Mama Cass, or D, Barry White?
Well, Mama Cass had a band, so I don't think it's her. Unless it was just a different band that she tried to join beforehand. I don't know anything about Big Pun.
I want to say Aretha Franklin.
Aretha Franklin?
Yeah, I would go with that.
Yeah.
It's a long and storied history.
There. Yeah. Yeah, I think Aretha Franklin.
All right.
Sure.
All three going for Aretha Franklin. And the correct answer is Mama Cass.
Oh, no.
Really? Okay.
The original story goes that Mama
was?
Cass ached to join the Mamas and the Papas, but John Phillips wouldn't let her in because she couldn't sing the high notes their songs required. They came up with a story after the fact saying that she was hit on the head by a falling pipe, and when she recovered from the concussion, she could miraculously sing the high notes. She joined the group and the rest is history. But the truth is, Mama Cass did say that repeatedly, but apparently they say that John Phillips wouldn't let her in because she was too fat. And they both made up the story and stuck to it because both of them were too embarrassed to admit that.
Wow.
Oh.
Do you want a light, fluffy one to close on? I do have one
God, yes,
throwaway
please.
one.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Here's a nice little fluffy one to finish up on.
All right.
Which of the following artists has had an asteroid named after them by NASA? A, Aretha Franklin, B, Pavarotti, C, Carlos Santana, or D, Enya, because why not?
Wait, Enya's not fat, is she?
I'm going
to...
No, neither is Santana. I'm going to go with Aretha Franklin again, because that would be awesome.
Come on, it's Aretha Franklin.
Yeah, Aretha the asteroid.
I feel like NASA is more of like, it has to be Pavarotti or Santana. But I'm going to go with Pavarotti.
I am too. I'm going with Pavarotti. Yeah.
Okay, we got two Pavarottis. We got one Aretha Franklin. And the correct answer is all of them. You are all correct.
Yay.
There is an asteroid named Aretha Franklin. There is an asteroid named Pavarotti circling around the Earth and making it a better place.
Well, thank you, Don, for that question, because that means I got one.
You did. Congratulations. And we have Dan on the board.
Enya ascended to her true form.
It's actually
she became an
Enya.
asteroid.
They didn't name it after her. It's just her. All right, guys, time to bring it home.
We're all home. Thank you for rubbing that in.
Yes.
You dick.
Bring it home and
it's finally out of my mind, out of my home, just for an hour.
Bring it home and stay there forever.
I'm just going to, I'm happy in my secured location.
Thanks for joining us for another hour of Big Fat Gay Podcast.
Welcome to season 2. We're going to try and
I just wanted to send out a quick message. I friended some of our listeners over Facebook over the past couple months. I have seen some of you posting that you are having experiences with COVID right now. And I just want to send encouragement. I want to send love. I want you to know that we are behind you and we completely know you're going to get through this. And I look forward to getting your emails after you are hale, hearty, and healthy and back out on the street.
Hear, hear.
Yes.
Yes, absolutely.
Get well soon.
Let's
do the get well soon. We want you to get well.
Is that a thing?
Get well soon. We want you to get well.
Get well? I've never heard this before.
I have no idea.
But I agree with what you're saying.
It's on Pavarotti's last album.
Yes. It's a Pavarotti deep cut. And you can find that deep cut on our various social media and website. We're on Instagram and Twitter as @BigFatGayPod. We're on Facebook as the Big Fat Gay Podcast. Our website is www.bigfatgaypod.com. Leave us a 5-star review. Send us some mail. Answer the question I asked earlier that I forgot what it was.
See any of the articles and other media that we've referenced on the website if you're interested in checking out more.
Yes.
And if you're driving home.
Yeah, if you're not driving home because where are you going?
Because we got locked down again.
You're at home because you have to be. And
stay there.
You're listening and
what's that in your back seat? It's your back seat.
Yeah, because you're not in the car. And you're finishing up now and I'm going to hit stop. So
watch out.